Dead Challenge Duo podcast episode number 70. Alexander, how are you doing? In your Double Dare shirt?
Yeah, man, Double Dare.
I saw the top of it, so I was like, is that Double Dare or I don't know.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, and my wife found this shirt at JCPenney for, I think, $12. So she got it for me because she knows when I was a kid, Double Dare was one of my favorite shows on Nickelodeon. I like the trivia aspect of it. It was always kind of a fun watch.
I watched it on the game show channel.
Yeah, they have this channel that my little sister really got into. So we're pretty separate in terms of age. Like, we're 15 years apart. But I remember,
same age as me.
Yeah, I remember one day I came out of the kitchen and my little sister is watching Double Dare on this channel called Gas. It's like, I guess it's like the Nickelodeon game show channel, and she absolutely loved it too. Because
that might have been the one that I watched, because that's where I watched Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Yeah, Legend of the Hidden Temple was on there too, and boy, what an epic show that was. Those poor kids, they could never get that Shrine of the Silver Monkey together.
Well,
there's a great article out there where the producers of the show talk about how unfair those games were.
Yeah. I mean, why not make it fair?
But yeah, I'm doing pretty well. How are you, Andy?
Great. I was going to say for the show, last time I was on the episode, sorry, I was on the last episode.
Yeah, well, that's
completely Alex's fault. Yeah. Which makes no sense if you don't know the story, because you were there and I wasn't, but it kind of was. It doesn't matter. But I spilled the Four Loko. That killed my keyboard.
Of course, man. You'll never get the stickiness out.
Yeah. Now I have my Apple Magic keyboard from like I use for my Mac. I have that set up now to this.
I feel pretty bad because I'm sure you had a nice keyboard. You seem like the type of person.
It was a Razer whatever.
Oh,
$150 keyboard.
Oh my Lord. I'm so sorry, Andy. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Funny thing is, I had somebody recently bring up keyboards to me, and they were talking about like, oh yeah, I get this really nice one. I really like it. I got a real nice Logitech, and I'm like, dude, I just buy the $14 keyboard and mouse combos off of Newegg, because the minute I spill a beer on it, it's completely done, and I don't want to be the guy who has to throw out a $200 keyboard. I will say this: I went to Best Buy and I used one of those Razer keyboards. They have them like on display there. I'm like, man, these are really nice. And then, like, even you guys know, if you follow the show, I'm a huge Alienware fan. And on the Alienware laptops, they put a really nice keyboard on those. And they even sell a standalone keyboard that I almost bought. But I told myself again, like, if you've ruined this keyboard, Alex, you'll never forgive yourself, because they're just so expensive.
Yeah, I'm vibing with this keyboard, though, because it's wireless and it's super small.
Yeah, I kind of like Apple's keyboards, but I don't know that I like the durability of them. I don't know. That's a whole nother
you gotta
topic
get used
for
to the
another
keys, because the keys aren't really, they're different.
Yeah, they're really shallow. Like, I used the new MacBook Pro recently. I was able to get on a display model on that, and the keyboard, it feels really good. But what I've heard is that the keys get jammed up pretty easily, and there's a pretty big failure rate on those. So
yeah, one of these.
I don't know. No, it wasn't that one. That looks old, bro.
No, it's 2019, I mean.
Oh, okay, so you got a new one then.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. Do you know, I found this interesting. I found out that the top-selling laptop on Amazon.com by far is the 2017 MacBook Air. There's apparently just a bunch of third-party resellers that are selling the 2017 version of the MacBook Air, and it's the #1 selling laptop on Amazon.com. Crazy.
I would have expected, like, the Chromecast, because it's like $150.
You would think so. I mean, I would think if I had to choose, I would say it would probably be like a Dell, like a lower end Dell, or a lower end HP, or like what you said, the Chromebook style. But the 27 Air MacBook Air.
My school, fortunate, everyone got MacBooks, like student MacBooks.
Yeah.
And then my senior year, they changed it to Chromecast, or whatever, the cheap laptops. It was kind of disappointing. But then again, there were new Macs in '08 whenever they first bought them.
Yeah.
So they were old by the time like I used them.
I've heard really good things about the newer Chromebooks. I will say that I used one of the early Chromebooks and I was not a fan of it. You know, I think everybody who watches or listens to this show knows that I'm really big on specs. And we're going to talk about specs on the Xbox Series X later, but I'm really big on specs on a PC. So I've never really been a Chromebook fan because, I mean, the whole idea behind them is low-end specs, but high performance because it's, you know, not a very taxing OS, which is kind of a beautiful concept in itself, but it's just not something that I would use. But
I mean, if you're only using it to watch YouTube videos.
Bingo. It's great for that. It's great for that. And then I would say like low-level enterprise
Minecraft.
No, I mean, I don't know if you can really game on them, but like enterprise type stuff, like maybe order entry or like CRM type stuff, or maybe even like very low level Excel, Word document processing, things of that nature.
I know you like Linus Tech Tips. Have you seen like his house thing?
Yeah.
Like the big computer that runs throughout the entire house. I think that's the future.
It's a nerd dream of mine.
I think that's the future of computers.
To have like a server that kind of runs through your house, almost like a mainframe, and then there's like satellite PCs is kind of a dream for any kind of nerd. But
I think that like I feel like that's the future of PCs is have one big one and then like a centralized unit, and then throughout the entire house you can just like plug a monitor in. It's like automatically hooked up and everything.
It could be reality. I think we're slowly getting there. The thing is, it's really the processing power. A lot of people think it's the graphics card. Believe it or not, it's the processors. You got to have some serious processing power to be able to do that.
We've had this conversation before.
Yeah, we definitely have. I mean, I even almost built a mini tower PC just to throw in my downstairs desk, but I thought about it and I said, Alex, it's just really unnecessary.
So, Alex.
Yeah.
What have you been playing / watching? So
this week I have been playing a lot of World of Warcraft. I'm sorry, I'm typing in notes here for timestamp purposes, but yeah, been playing a lot of World of Warcraft and dabbling in some Madden Ultimate Team. Kind of gotten back into that just a little bit. Yeah, I know, it's kind of weird.
We'll be talking about Madden later.
Yeah, we will be talking about Madden later. And beyond that, I did purchase One Punch Man, the video game, today.
I thought you meant the anime. I was like, why?
No, I have the season 1 Blu-ray of One Punch Man, and I will be buying season 2 Blu-ray whenever that comes out because I'm a huge fan of the show. I really like it. It's a really good show. But I did purchase the video game for that and just kind of dabbled in it a little bit before we recorded today. So looking forward to diving deeper into that. And then as far as watching, I'm still working my way through Better Call Saul season 4. And it's really great. It's just been a fun ride. It's one of my favorite shows probably of all time for a number of reasons. Mainly Bob Odenkirk. I love anything he does. So I've been watching that. Did watch the Film Club selection. And, I don't know that I can think of anything else I've watched this week that would be notable. So a lot of American Dad. Been watching more and more of that as time goes on. Andy, what have you been watching? What have you been playing?
Past 2 weeks, since that wasn't the last episode, I don't got to mention it all. I watched To All the Boys, P.S. I Love You, new movie of 2020. Turned it off within 20 minutes. I watched Go for Broke, the short that Jeff Fowler directed before Sonic movie. I watched the Shaun the Sheep movie from 2019. Turned that off after 30 minutes too. I love all of like Nick Park stuff, but it doesn't feel the same. I watched Barking Dogs Never Bite. It's Bong Joon-ho's feature-length debut. The guy who won Best Picture, Best Director this year in the Oscars. Bong Joon-ho. Interesting movie, South Korean movie. I watched Waves from 2019, directed by Trey Edward Schultz. That movie might have like my favorite soundtrack ever in any movie ever. Like it has like Kendrick Lamar, Chance the Rapper, Kanye. Like it's super like rap heavy.
It's kind of surprising. You usually don't see very much hip hop in Hollywood movies at all.
Yeah, it's about a black family
Oh, okay.
And whenever it shows like the Black Sun, he's a wrestler. It's not a sports movie, but it has like sports. It shows him wrestling, and like when he's in the car, like there's like chants and all that. Like that's the type of music I like.
All right.
So it's really good. I would recommend that one. And then I watched Horse Girl from 2020, The Butler last week's pick, The Farewell from 2019, Jojo Rabbit from 2019. I watched Yorgos Lanthimos, one of his movies, Dogtooth. It's a movie from 2009.
Yeah.
I watched The Killing of a Sacred Deer, the pick this week, and then I watched a behind the scenes video called An Impossible Conundrum: The Making of the Killing of a Sacred Deer. And I watched, speaking of Bob Odenkirk, he's in this at some points. I watched all of How I Met Your Mother in the past 2 weeks. And now I'm watching That 70s Show.
That 70s Show is a really good watch. I've probably seen every episode on that more than once.
This is my, I think, third rewatch.
It's really good. I didn't know Bob Odenkirk was in How I Met Your Mother.
He's like a side character.
That is not something I remember at all. But then again, I was never really into that show too much. My wife watched it.
Marshall, and like when Marshall goes and works for the bank, Bob Odenkirk's his boss.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
And he like shows up every once in a while after that. But Alex, moving on to listener questions. Speaking of specs from earlier, discuss Xbox Series X specs announcement from The Reasons I'm Broke via Twitter.
Yeah, I actually, boy, how weird is it that when I did the solo episode last week, I was talking about, I really think it's time for both companies to come out, release specs, release price points, give us a release date to kind of put an end to the speculation. Now, we didn't get all of that here, but we did get quite a bit. There's a lot of meat and potatoes to this announcement. And just to quickly summarize here, the Xbox Series X is going to launch with a custom designed CPU based on the AMD Zen 2 and Radeon RDNA 2 architecture, which is the graphics card side of it. To give you some perspective, if we're just going off of teraflops, which is an old standard that has been used really as long as I can remember, when it comes to 3D rendering in consoles, this thing can do 12 teraflops, which would put it on par with, I think, basically 8 times the power of the original Xbox One, and then it would be twice the power of the Xbox One X, which...
Yeah, but how many bits, though? Does it have 64 bits, Alex?
I think it is 64-bit architecture. I would hate to be wrong on that, but I'm fairly certain that they're using a 64-bit processor. I'd put money on that. But this is the advantage of moving to x86 architecture. I think that as time has gone on, we've kind of found out that the best way to approach this is to try and get really PC parts and stick it in a tiny box and just market it as a console instead of maybe doing like what Sony did with the PS3 and the PS2 with like cell processing units. But moving back to the Xbox Series X, it's going to have an SSD for the hard drive, which is something that we've been asking for a very long time. And to give you some additional specs here, this thing's going to be able to do 8K, and it'll support frame rates of up to 120 FPS in games. Now, most people don't care about anything beyond 60, but there is a huge segment of the market that actually does like going up to 120 FPS if they can.
And even more.
I've seen people saying that 144 is the right number. I've seen people saying 160 is the right number. Personally, beyond 60, I don't notice that much of a difference to where I really want that, but I think it's good that it's there. So if it's not necessarily for me, that's fine, but it's good that it's there for other people. And I do know that there have been some studies done where they've shown that people playing on 120 FPS versus 60 FPS in a controlled environment, they have slight performance improvements in terms of reflex time and all that. So overall, I have to say that I'm very impressed with what I saw on this spec sheet. if you put it up apples to apples versus the Xbox One X, which I think is the right comparison to make. If we're going to talk about the base Xbox One, I think we're making a really unfair comparison because, as I've stated on this show many times, as I'm sure people are tired of hearing me say, the Xbox One base released way too underpowered. It wasn't enough of a jump from the Xbox 360 to really make a huge difference. Was it a noticeable difference? Yes. Was it a big enough difference generation to generation that people have become accustomed to? No. So part of that is the law of diminishing returns. As technology gets better, those jumps generation to generation aren't going to be greater. But I still feel like the Xbox One X released out of the gate very underpowered. I think the Xbox One X is much closer to what I expected the Xbox One base to be, but that's neither here nor there. And a lot of people would point to the GPU on those systems as the problem. The bottleneck was the processor on that. And also, if we want to go back to the PS4 base, is the same thing. They use very similar processors, the Xbox One base and PS4 base. So the Pro on PS4 side really helped things because it freed up processing bottlenecks. So overall, this looks really exciting. I would assume that the PlayStation 5 will be very similar. The leaks that I've seen for the PlayStation 5 look like it's going to be very similar technology inside of it. I think the biggest takeaway for me is I saw some people talking about this thing's going to overheat. I saw two takes that really bother me. Number one, I don't think this thing's going to overheat based on what they're putting it in. Putting it in a bigger block and giving it some room to breathe, I think will lead to no overheating issues. So I don't think this is going to be like a recurrence of the 3 rings of death or the red ring of death or whatever it was called. The other take that I really didn't like, that somebody came to me on Twitter and was like, you're basically buying a PC in the box. And in the nicest way possible, I basically told him, you've been buying a PC in the box since the original Xbox. Like, if we really want to get down to it, the original Xbox was an NVIDIA graphics card. That was a custom NVIDIA graphics card, but it was really similar to one that was on the market right then. And it was a custom Intel Celeron processor with a PC hard drive. It was a 10 gigabyte Seagate hard drive that they threw in the original Xbox. It was a PC in a box. The Xbox 360 was a PC in a box. The Xbox One was a PC in a box. And if you want to run to Sony and say, well, Sony's not doing the same thing, PS4 is a PC in a box. PS3 was pretty close.
What are you complaining about?
The person that said this is basically saying that you could buy... So this thing's going to be $500, and they're saying that you could build a PC for that same amount of money that'll put out these kind of specs, but I don't think so. As someone who's built PCs frequently over the years, and as someone who continues to build PCs and also prices PCs on a regular basis, to get a PC that's going to run 4K at 60 frames a second, you'd really be tough. You'd be really hard pressed to do that for $500, which is what I think this system's going to release at. But if we're going to talk about 8K and 120 FPS, I don't think it's possible. I don't even think if you bought used parts on every single piece of hardware that you put into a PC, I don't think for $500 you get something this good.
You haven't seen my Raspberry Pi.
It'll run World of Warcraft for like 30 seconds before it crashes. Nah, but overall, man, I think we got everything we asked for. And, I talked about this on Twitter, and then I'll let Andy share his thoughts. And I know everybody's tired of hearing me talk about Xbox, but I'm excited because I'm an Xbox guy. I always have been. So I don't know what that is a reference to, but okay. So one of my biggest problems with the Xbox One was they made me buy a Kinect. And I bought a Kinect on Xbox 360, and I played with it for about a month, and then it just sat, and it literally collected dust. And I didn't think that the Kinect 2, or whatever they wanted to call it, was going to be that big of a deal. And it turned out to not be a big deal at all. It ended up losing all official support after, I think, about 2 years. So Xbox got away from what Xbox meant. The original Xbox, the Xbox 360, was we're going to cram as much horsepower, as much hardware as we possibly can in this little box, and we're going to slap a really nice price tag on it, and you're going to get a really nice system that's right on par with a PC. The Xbox One got away from that. This is a return to form for Xbox. This is what the Xbox fan base has been asking for, And I think if they are going to compete with PlayStation 5, and it's going to be hard because PS4 killed the Xbox One in sales. If they're going to compete here in North America with the PlayStation 5, this is how you do it. You put a bunch of hardware in a box. I don't care if it's big, doesn't matter. I'm not looking at it like aesthetically. I don't care about aesthetics really. I just want something that's going to play games in a really cool way. Some of the things that they have going on, like multiple games in suspended state. There's so much cool stuff coming. I'm a day one customer. I already was. But if anything, this is kind of reinforced that this is a system I'm buying day one. I'm actually going to be buying two. But I can't wait to get my hands on it. Andy, how did you feel about the specs on the Xbox Series?
I don't care.
You don't care?
Cool. Yeah, I don't care.
Oh, come on.
You know, I really, I don't know what to tell you. I honestly don't. Cool. It does great things.
I assume based on our last conversation, you're probably picking one up at some point, right?
Yeah, day one.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I mean, I appreciate that you're so passionate about this topic.
Well,
I'm not a spec person, or I don't. If they released Xbox One same specs as base Xbox One again, I wouldn't care. I'd still buy it.
I just think that. So it's very rare that as a fan of something, I get exactly what I want, right? So, and I got
Sonic movie.
There you go. That's a good example. But, you know, I wanted a CPU that wasn't going to be a bottleneck. Check that box. I want a graphics card that isn't going to be a bottleneck. Check that box. I want an SSD instead of a traditional hard drive. They check that box.
That's the only thing I care about, honestly, is SSD.
Well, I mean, people have been opening up their PlayStations and Xboxes and putting SSDs in there, and it's a significant improvement.
Yeah, it kills load times completely.
Yeah,
basically.
and to go even further, like on the PC side of things, like if you're a PC gamer, or even someone like me who edits videos a lot, you know, having that SSD as a scratch drive, as a boot drive, significantly frees up, you know, bandwidth for other things. So,
speaking of load times,
yeah.
Do you remember? This is completely off. Do you remember the Skyrim way there's a way to make load times go faster? Do you remember that on the Xbox 360?
I'm not familiar with this. How would you do that?
During load times or like when you're during load times or like skipping time, if you hit the dashboard button, like the dash popped up, it would kill load screens. Like it would like make them go way faster for some reason.
That's kind of crazy. I wonder how that actually works.
I don't know. I was going to ask you if you knew how that worked, but that was a thing.
No, the only thing I can think of is that maybe it freed up, maybe going to the dashboard kind of freed up graphic
or it wasn't like
resources.
Xbox One dashboard. It was just the
guide. I seem to remember something like that. You know, I'm going to have to research that because that's really fascinating to me. I kind of wonder how that would work.
Second thing.
Yeah.
Is were you alive or like hyped like when the N64 came out?
Yeah.
Because I just remember like a Cinemassacre video where he's like, we had 8-bit, then we had 16-bit, and Nintendo was like 64 bits.
It blew everybody's minds, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, when the N64 came out, I remember they put up a demo unit, I want to say before the launch, and it was at Target. And kids would just be crowded around it. You know, it was just like this foreign piece of hardware. And it really blew people's minds. I think the first time I got my hands on an N64 was at Blockbuster. And I played Super Mario 64 because that's what was in there. And
greatest game.
It was mind-blowing to see Mario in 3D. When you look at it now, it doesn't look impressive. But to really like frame it up right.
Impressive, no, but it looks... I have like a nostalgia, I guess, like looks good still.
So before playing Super Mario 64, the last Mario game I played was Yoshi's Island on Super Nintendo, which is a great game, and I'm actually replaying that right now. But in playing Yoshi's Island, I remember saying, wow, this looks way better than Super Mario World, and Super Mario World looked really great. And then here comes
fantastic still.
Yeah, and then here comes Mario 64. It was mind blowing to me as a kid. So, and then also I remember seeing the cartridges and like, oh man, these cartridges look really big. There must be some serious hardware in them.
Imagine how different gaming would be if the 64 was a flop.
If the 64 was a flop, I don't know if, God, everything would be different. I know Nintendo would still be here because I always get mad at people who think that Nintendo would go out of business.
It would go back to 2D stuff. 16-bit.
They would probably, yeah. They might have doubled down on that. It would really change the landscape as we know it. I don't think that we'd have a Nintendo Switch.
Super Mario 64, still a great game. Fantastic game.
It's aged well. I went back and I played it probably about a year ago, and it was still fun. It still works. Like, that's what makes it great, is the visuals feel dated, but the game works. It's not a broken game.
And everything. The controls are great.
Yeah, the controls are good. Sure, there are glitches, but you really have to do something stupid to glitch out. Like, it's just a through and through good game on its face. And like, to me, it's like when you go back to Sonic 1, right? You go back, you play Sonic the Hedgehog 1. It's still good. It's still good.
I never played Sonic.
So speaking of great games, our next listener question comes from @CubanSwim on Twitter, Bobby, another Patreon backer. Thank you for that. But he asks us, if you were in charge, what would you change about Madden in Madden 21? Basically, what would you implement so the game would be your go-to game 7 days a week with enjoyment, constant streaming, and content creation? Andy, I'll let you lead off.
That was a bad decision.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Ultimate Team is completely dead for me, and there's nothing it can do to rejuvenate my drive to play it.
Okay.
The only thing I guess would be to actually update franchise mode. Like, they slowly change franchise mode. I mean, they do like one thing every year they change.
Yeah.
But to do like a complete overhaul of like the connected franchise and franchise system and made it. I've had like a lot of fun this year playing franchise this year. Mm-hmm. Doing like online franchise, a couple friends. Yeah. If they did something to make that even better. Like, as I said, Ultimate Team is completely dead for me. So I'm not the greatest person to ask, I guess.
Yeah.
Gameplay wise, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I wish they went away from the animations, but that would completely change. Like, they'd have to make a whole new engine and everything to do that.
They would, yeah.
So you're asking for too much there.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this, and some of these are going to be me repeating myself, and I apologize for that if I am. But my asks of Madden continue to be the same. So the first one that I always say is I want a tutorial mode that's going to allow beginners to. I don't need tutorials.
Skill trainer.
I know, but they need a real one. And, I don't need it. So it's not for me. I'm making this request, and it's
for your wife.
It's not okay. Sure, that's a good example of somebody that it would be for. But I want something for people like my wife, or people like a former coworker of mine whose kid was 8 and he wanted to play Madden bad. Like, he really wanted to play Madden, and he wanted to get good at the game. And my coworker was kind of saying it's difficult because if I let him go online, he just gets his brains beaten in and he just gets discouraged. And if he plays me, I either beat his brains in or I have to pretend to stink.
Yeah.
But he said it's so hard for him to understand the mechanics of what makes a good Madden player.
Or the game of football.
Exactly. And I think that it's something that's a core belief of mine. I remember when John Madden started John Madden football, he said, I want it to be 11 on 11, and I want it to be something where people can learn how to play football realistically. Like that, I'm kind of summarizing his thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm certainly paraphrasing, but those were the two things that Madden wanted. He wanted it to be realistic as possible. He wanted it to be 11 on 11. He wanted it to be something that could teach people basics about football. And I think Madden is currently failing at that, or not doing as good of a job as they could be. I think a robust tutorial mode where someone like my wife could learn how to go in there. This is what you call against the pass play. This is why you call it. This is why you call nickel instead of dime. This is why you call dime instead of 4-3, 4-4. This is when you blitz situationally. This is where you shade up. This is where you shade down on your coverages.
But at the same time,
this
that's
is
not
what a
really
cover.
an objective thing. It's more of a subjective thing. At least blitzing, at least.
It is, but like explain the mechanics behind it to someone.
Yeah.
I want something that's so good, a tutorial that's so good to where I could take my wife or my former coworker's 8-year-old, put them through the tutorial, and they'd be able to be borderline competitive. They'd be able to just hold their own against a regular person online. Not a pro player. I still want skill gap. And this doesn't mess with skill gap, by the way. This still allows skill gap, right? You could have a basic tutorial and an advanced tutorial.
It doesn't affect the ceiling, but it affects the floor.
Exactly. Like, give people a pathway to get good at the game. So that would be my first thing. Second thing I would say in terms of gameplay, let's dial back the Superstar X abilities. Some of them are getting a little bit too... I think somebody started calling them X-Men abilities, and it kind of feels
abilities.
Yu-Gi-Oh abilities, and it really feels that way. I mean, like, I can't, especially the jukebox one, like where the juke move is like an 80% chance of just like working every time.
Jukebox and there's the other one.
There's one that's like spin something.
Joystick something.
Yeah.
Joystick something and jukebox, where you don't lose speed whenever you juke, and jukebox is already insane.
Yeah.
That combo.
It's too much, man. And like, I played a guy yesterday online, and I ran with Saquon Barkley, and I used the jukebox ability 3 times within 3 seconds to juke out 3 separate defenders, and I scored a touchdown.
If it's a thing, it should be like once per a couple plays.
It's too much, man. And then like they started with the NFL 100 players. Some players are, as soon as they're on the field, the X Factor ability is automatically on, and you have to beat it to turn it off. And I just think they need to dial it back a little bit. It's a good idea, but it's like anything else. It's only good in moderation. Then I keep asking for this over and over again every single year, and I'm gonna keep asking for it until they actually do it. But I really, and Andy was right on franchise. They need to add some more content to franchise. But I want zone coverage that plays a little bit truer to the play art. I want safeties that don't make dumb decisions, especially when they're playing a deep blue. I want more of...
I feel like awareness should mean more than just a meaningless stat.
Bingo. And I think that's a really important thing to put in there. That being said, I think it's important for me to state that I think Madden 20 overall has been a better game than Madden 19. As I've always said, I think the idea is you progressively get better. I think EA's handling of certain situations has not been the best. And I think their quality control is not very good in terms of when they release updates, a lot of stuff is broken. We saw a lot of that this year. But I don't know how to like intelligently say like stop releasing broken stuff, because that's really all I'm asking for. But I wouldn't put that on my list of things I would change it, but I'm not going to put it on. Like, I don't think it just needs to be done. Like, stop screwing stuff up, EA. That's basically my point. But tutorial, better zone coverages, awareness being a thing, franchise improvements, and then let's dial back the Superstar X stuff. It's getting a little gimmicky now. It's feeling a little NFL blitz the league, you know, all that stuff.
I just thought of something. Crap.
Yeah.
Oh, there was what's the events on Ultimate Team? It's like, oh, you have 3 days to do this.
House rules.
There was a house rule event where you couldn't pick the same play twice in a row, and it had like a certain. Like, if you picked a play, I think they should make that official in the game.
I don't like that. idea too much, but
like a cap to how many times you can call the same play.
That's fair. I've seen people say that. I think in competitive modes, that's something that maybe you could look at. I don't know if I'm on board with that or not on board with that, because as a guy who I probably run about 12 to 15 plays on offense.
You basically run single back deuce close, and that's it.
No, I run single back deuce close. I also run shotgun Y trips, and I run a little bit of wildcat, a little bit of read option, and then I do like to split up into 5 wide occasionally just to give people a different look. But single back deuce close is good. I know I have 2 or 3 plays in there balanced. That I know I can make some damage.
You don't know what you're getting whenever single back deuce close comes out.
Exactly. So, but thanks for the question, Bobby. And also thanks to Daniel for his question. I don't think I remembered to do that. But, great questions this week. Got a lot of discussion out of it. Moving on to entertainment. I have no idea what this is, but I'm very intrigued. Andy has apparently found more interesting stuff regarding the Sonic movie, and I want to hear this.
It's just fun facts.
Okay.
That I found by looking around. So I looked at all the actors and all the everyone that worked on the movie, basically.
Okay.
And I looked at their other work, and there's people that worked on this movie that worked on some pretty interesting things. So starting off, the cinematographer worked on a movie that you like, Star Trek Beyond. The art director worked on Tron Legacy, the Silent Hill movie, and the World of Warcraft movie.
Okay.
The composer worked on Batman vs. Superman and several other Zack Snyder movies.
I'm surprised.
The actor who played Agent Stone, Lee Majdoub, mispronouncing that, also was on the movie See No Evil 2 starring Mayor of Knoxville, Glenn Jacobs.
Oh, wow.
Otherwise known as Kane.
Yeah.
There were several actors that I found that have many Hallmark movies. Not just one. There's a lot of actors in this movie that were in a lot of Hallmark movies.
So what you're telling me is that Jared will enjoy this.
Oh, Jared would love it. Yeah.
That's our Hallmark guy right there. Shout out to Spoon Sandwich on Twitter. He knows more about Hallmark movies than he's probably forgotten more about Hallmark movies than I'll ever know.
Original film, these are going to the companies that made this movie. Original film, a company behind this movie, also makes Fast and Furious movies, and Sonic is indeed Fast and Furious.
Okay, that was good. That got me. It's so stupid, but it's good.
Blur Studios, company that director Jeff Fowler worked on previous works, Go for Broke, are an animation company founded by Tim Miller, the director of the first Deadpool movie and the newest Terminator movie. Fun fact, company Blur Studios worked on cutscenes for GTA San Andreas, Star Wars The Old Republic, The Force Unleashed, all 3 Arkham Asylum or Arkham games, both Halo Wars and the Master Chief Collection, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare. And last but not least, they worked for cutscenes on the greatest game ever made, Sonic 06.
That's quite the resume.
DJ2 Entertainment worked on this film. They're also the team that's behind the Life is Strange franchise of games. And they also made a short film about the game Sleeping Dogs, which I didn't know existed. But there's a short film about sleeping dogs that they made.
Wow. I didn't know Sleeping Dogs ever got that.
Hedgehog Films Incorporated, Hedgehog Films Incorporated. Was created for this movie, but they've also made 2 more movies coming out in 2020 that they're in pre-production right now. Fun. I don't know about them, but just fun fact. Marza Animation Planet, which previously worked on Final Fantasy 15 animated movie that came out in Japan and a Resident Evil Japanese animated movie.
I've heard about both of those. I haven't seen them, but I did know that they did a Final Fantasy 15 movie and a Resident Evil that specifically only came out in Japan.
And then this movie, most importantly, was made by Paramount, creator of the Avengers movie, the greatest movie ever made.
There's like really like angry MCU fans now. I feel like every week we kind of sort of make an Endgame joke.
It's just jabs, yeah.
Yeah, just little jabs, and it's fine.
And then and last but not least, the Sega Universe Cinematic Universe. This actually isn't the first movie. Sega has made 12 movies, including this one, including their first movie, which is Lady Battle Cop from 1990. Sonic the Hedgehog movie from 1996. Last Bronx. Neon Genesis Evangelion. I don't know how to pronounce that. But that's actually an anime that's apparently pretty good, according to anime people.
Yeah.
Ah, my goodness, the movie. The Shinmu movie. There's a Yakuza movie directed by Takashi Miike, which is actually, like, Takashi Miike is a good director. That movie might be good, I don't know. Unagi City, Sakura County, Appleseed Ex Machina, Sonic Night of the Werehog, Phantasy Star Online 2, which is a live-action Phantasy Star Online movie, and now the Sonic movie in 2020. And that's some fun things that I found one random night.
I guess it goes to show that they did have quite a few experienced people here. Some of those resumes are more impressive than others. I mean, I'm not going to lie, but...
There's a lot of funny things that I like.
A lot of fun coincidences, but you would imagine that some of these people kind of work in the same circles and have crossed paths multiple times. I still stand by it. I've actually had quite a few people, since we recorded the show where we talked about Sonic, I had quite a few people reach out to me and talk to me about the movie. And the general synopsis is I have yet to run into a person that didn't like it.
I didn't say I didn't like it. It was...
Oh, no, I'm not saying that you did. I'm just saying, like...
I give it a 4 out of 10, but I don't think it's definitely a bad movie.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a bad time watching it.
So we'll disagree on the bad movie part, but what I will say is generally speaking, the majority of people that I talk... Like, I even talked to a lady today out in public. She asked me about... I was wearing my Eggman Enterprises shirt. So naturally they asked me, did you see the Sonic movie? And of course, yeah.
The way they were like, yeah, you look like Eggman and you're wearing Eggman shirt.
That's funny. That actually didn't happen, but I could see it happening. So yeah, she basically told me I liked it and I am a Sonic fan, but I can't stand Jim Carrey. And that was the only thing that made me... I did find him
pretty annoying.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Different strokes, different folks is what I'll say on that.
This ain't the 90s anymore.
That's fair. That being said, I've yet to run into a person who just said, I absolutely hated it. I couldn't stand it. And I know I keep making the comparison to Detective Pikachu, but it's the same thing. Like, I watch it and I go, it's not supposed to be great film. It's really a kid's movie. And I'm just enjoying a kid's movie, and that's just kind of where I leave it. So, anyway, Speaking of films, we move into DCD Film Club this week. And this week we're covering a pick from our Patreon backers. It comes from Dumbest Sphinx.
Yep.
And it is The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I don't know when it was... 2017. I forgot.
Directed by Yorgos Lanthimos.
There you go. Starring Colin Farrell, Nicole Kidman, and...
Yeah, it stars Colin Farrell, Nicole Kidman, Barry Keoghan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to pronounce his last name. And he's I don't know what country he's actually from. I don't know. But he starred Chernobyl. He was the kid whenever they go out and kill dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I think you remember that.
I do remember that.
Traumatizing scene, I guess.
It was a pretty rough scene, yeah.
And then it also stars, I don't remember the kid's name, but the son in the movie plays the main character in mid-90s, the Jonah Hill movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of, I have the Blu-ray. If anyone wants this ultraviolet code that doesn't work, there you go. Because ultraviolet shut down. But if you can figure out a way to use this code, have fun.
Well,
have a great time. Yeah, but The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Alex, you discussed on Twitter that you've discovered your least favorite writer/director. And I could only assume you're talking about Yorgos Lanthimos. Yep. Alex, what is your thoughts on the movie?
All right, so first time watching it, didn't know much about it, and looked it up on Vudu, and immediately saw that it was in a 2-pack.
I tried.
Yeah.
I tried to not let him know that it was the same director.
Well, I think I would have pieced it together, and the reason I say that is I see a lot of similarities between this and The Lobster. You guys know I was not a fan of The Lobster. I believe that The Lobster was also picked by Dumbest Sphinx. Could be wrong on that, but I seem to remember it that way. I did purchase The Lobster. I did not purchase...
The Lobster was Sphinx's pick.
Yeah.
I think that's what you said.
Yeah, so I did not purchase this film, and I'm glad I didn't, because I will never be watching this ever again. I watched it through Amazon Prime, so I would encourage anybody listening to this, if you respect at all my opinion on film, please watch it on Amazon Prime first. Get yourself a free trial, treat yourself, and then make a purchasing decision from there, because I did not like this at all. So I want to make this really clear, because I know the first thing people are going to say is, well, you don't understand it, and that's why you don't like it. I do understand it. I do know that it's based on a Greek tragedy. I do understand the concept behind said tragedy, behind the original story, behind this story, right? The idea is one for one. It's time to pay the price, whatever you want to call it. But
eye for an eye.
There you go. My issue with this film really starts with the dialogue. I don't know what they're going for on this, but the dialogue feels very mechanical, emotionless. I think my best guess, because I really pondered this after watching it, and I really thought about it pretty hard, trying to figure it out on my own. The only thing I can think of is that they purposely make the dialogue, for the most part, devoid of emotion, especially with Colin Farrell and the kid's character, the kid who's, I guess, father he killed, right? Whose name escapes me at the moment. But I think they try to make it devoid of emotion to kind of show how transactional...
Martin.
Yeah, Martin. How transactional their dealings are. Right? I've wronged you, so I'm trying to make up for it by buying you this watch, or by inviting you over to meet my family, or by kind of sort of setting you up with my daughter, or, whatever, right? It's all transactional. But then eventually it's not enough anymore, and the kid says, well, I have to take one of your family members, or you have to lose one of your family members like I lost mine, and then we'll be even. And again, it just comes back down to this very transactional, eye for an eye, one for one, a life for a life, whatever you want to call it. I get that. I understand it. My problem is this. Dialogue felt forced. It felt unnatural. It doesn't really add anything. I don't really get why it's there in the first place. Cinematography. This film was praised for cinematography. I got so sick of all the shots being either super wide angle and really far away, or they start here, right? This is the beer can. The shot starts here, and the camera just slowly zooms out. Slowly zooming out for dramatic effect. Slowly zooming out for dramatic effect. And they do that over and over and over and over in this movie, and they just run it into the ground. You want to do it here and there, fine. Right? But if you do it over and over again, it becomes hackneyed. And if you don't believe that humans see repetition as a loss of meaning, sit down and say a word over and over and over in your head. Eventually it will lose meaning, because that's how our brains work. If you keep doing the same thing over, if every day was Christmas, Christmas isn't special anymore. So when you reuse the same shooting technique over, it's very M. Night Shyamalan-like, because he does the same thing in his movies, where he'll do a pan shot and a pan shot and a pan shot and a pan shot and a pan, and you're like, stop panning the freaking camera. Well, it was annoying, and I pay attention to cinematography. My wife doesn't as much, and she noticed it too. And she's like, why does every shot either super wide angle or starts here and zooms out for dramatic effect? It's overuse of the same technique, and it's avant-garde pretentiousness in cinematography, and I didn't like it. And then finally, my wife was confused. I had to stop it and explain what was happening multiple times. And part of why she was probably confused is because it's very boring. It slogs along for 2 hours. It's way too long of a film. And then what's my takeaway? Who am I rooting for here? You know, like I hate to use, my friend Daniel says that all the time, but I hate to basically plagiarize him, but who am I supposed to be rooting for here? Colin Farrell's character is a piece of crap. His wife is morally malleable, right? We'll kill one of the kids. That makes a lot of sense, right? The kids are trying to sell each other out, right? And then Martin, he's vengeful, which is not how you're supposed to be as a human being. Like, you're supposed to forgive, right? What's my moral takeaway here? Like, there's no moral takeaway. There's no, all the characters are crappy, right? They all do deplorable things. I kind of wanted them all to die in the end anyway. Like, that's how much I hated all the characters in this. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's why this is based on a Greek tragedy, because Greek tragedies are usually pretty pointless. There's no moral. There's no takeaway. It didn't evoke any emotion in me other than just pissing me off. That's all it did. I really disliked this movie. I have nothing good to say about it. I'm putting this out there right now, and I'm not even trying to be ugly. And Dumbest Sphinx, you know I love you. You're awesome, and you're like the coolest dude ever. So like I want to make this really clear. It is nothing personal against you. Like, you are A1 in my book, right? But I will never watch anything written, directed, produced, starring. Even if he was in the building while they filmed it, I won't have.
I won't. My next pick.
Well, I'm not watching it. I'm not. Find a guest to do DC. I will not. I refuse. I'm done. And if we're gonna make this a troll segment where we just pick stuff that everybody knows I'm gonna hate, well, my next pick is Dick Figures the movie. I'm just gonna pick stupid that I know everybody else is gonna hate, and I'll watch it because I like stupid. So, and I'm cursing, and I'm gonna have to bleep that out. But like, I just could not stand this. It was a painful 2 hours, and then it's so stupid. He's spinning around the room with a gun. He can't even make a decision, and it's like, why would you do this? It's, oh God, it makes no sense. Nothing's ever explained. Who's driving this process? Who's making the decisions? Is it a god? Is Martin a god? What's happening? Then they meet in a diner and they act like nothing happened. It's stupid. It's a bunch of avant-garde, pretentious nonsense. And everything that guy makes is avant-garde, pretentious nonsense. And if you like it, that's great. I hate scalloped potatoes, but a lot of people like them. So enjoy your scalloped potatoes, but don't try to force it down my throat, because I ain't eating it. And I'm not going to say that this was a good film. It just isn't.
Yeah, so when Finks picked it, he said Killing of Sacred Deer. I've been wanting to rewatch it. I don't care if I already did one from this director. Alex may hate me, but I don't care.
I don't hate him.
Fun quote.
I love Dumbest Sphinx. He's the coolest dude. He's cool as
for the everybody likes it. This movie has a 3.8 out of 5 on Letterboxd. The Lobster has a 3.8 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Dogtooth has a 3.8 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and Yorgos' newest movie, The Favor, has a 4.1 out of 5 on Letterboxd, all with 15,000+ votes. But
no accounting for taste, I guess.
The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Dialogue was your first point. This movie's funny. All right. Yes, there's very fun points.
Oh my god, I didn't laugh once.
There's very funny points in the movie within the dialogue and the way that people don't act like people act like in real life. For example, they're at the party and Colin Farrell's like, "Oh, my girl just had her first menopause." Or whenever Martin and the girl first meet, she's like, "I've had my first period recently."
That's not funny.
It is. And I can point several reviewers that says it's funny too.
What's the point? What am I supposed to gain from that?
Not every movie's made to gain from anything.
This isn't like The Invention of Lying with Ricky Gervais, which isn't a great film, by the way. But it
ain't like Avengers Infinity War.
I'm not saying that that's good either. I don't understand the point. You have to have a why. There has to be a reason why you would do that. There has to be a reason why you have somebody saying, "I just menstruated for the first time." Why is that meaningful? Is it absurdism? Is that what we're going for here?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not.
Or are we going, or is it humor based on shock value? Because not everybody's going to find that funny.
Not everybody finds everything funny. Not everybody finds Jim Carrey in the Sonic movie funny. Not everyone finds the Sonic movie in general funny.
I have genital warts. Is that funny? Did anybody no, it's not funny, and I don't, by the way.
There's no setup.
There was no setup for. She just had her first menstruate. Oh my god.
Okay, boomer. Cinematography.
Okay, boomer. This has nothing to do with age, and this has everything to do with a ridiculous premise for a film, right? And then a ridiculous execution of said ridiculous premise. Whatever.
Cinematography. You didn't mention. There's also some great still shots and like very long shots that are pretty great. The score is amazing and fantastic. And it has similarities to horror aspects as this movie that you actually liked. And I don't get why you liked one versus the other whenever they're very similar in horror aspects and score.
Okay. Allow me to explain.
By the way, for audio listeners, sorry. It was Under the Skin. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I wonder, why is Scarlett Johansson's character so awkward in her dialogue? Right? That's the comparison we're making. Well, no. Here's why it makes sense, and here's why it was well done in Under the Skin. It's eventually explained. It's because she's an alien. That makes sense. That furthers the storyline. That actually makes the premise valuable, right? It's never explained in The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Nothing's ever explained. I'm left to my own devices. I have to guess. And at that point, what's the point? You didn't tell me anything.
So you want movies to explain everything for you, like Avengers Endgame?
No, I don't. See, now, so that right there is hyperbole. What you're doing is arguing based on hyperbole. I'm not comparing Endgame to this. They're two different stratospheres completely. I'm not saying everything has to be spoon-fed to me, but I'm just saying that there should be a purpose behind it. There's no purpose. It's never explained.
All right. Moving forward. Speaking of great score and cinematography, another DCD pick that you didn't watch. So, The Lighthouse.
I'm horrified to watch it. I'm actually legitimately, I'm scared to watch anything you like anymore. After watching this, I'm scared to watch anything that you recommend. I won't
recommend things ever again.
See, you don't have to be like that.
Because all the fans are like, "Oh, Andy likes all his picks. He hates all the other picks."
Well, that's not entirely true. That's not entirely true. I mean, we'd have to go back and actually run the math on it and get real statistics, which I don't have offhand because I don't keep track of that.
I mean, I just think it's funny how it's weird that I pick movies that I like, and whenever you guys pick movies, I like them sometimes and I don't like them sometimes.
Okay, well, so here's the problem. There is a bit of a duality on this show, okay? Like, I think that you will agree, and I'm not trying to speak for you, but I think you would agree that generally I am more positive on things, and you sometimes skew a little bit more towards the negative. You are a harsher critic on film than I will ever be. Let's put that out there, right? You are more discerning. You have maybe more of a discerning palate when it comes to that. Meanwhile, I'll watch stupid stuff like Freddy Got Fingered and be like, oh, it was okay.
Sure. I don't know. Cinematography's great. Music's great. It is, to quote Robert Ebert's website, obviously, rest in peace, because he wasn't live when this came out. I don't know who the reviewer was, but to quote Robert Ebert's website, it's one of the most unforgettable films from the year and all time. It's completely horrifying. It's a horror movie. I don't share the same negatives that you do, and I think it's a great movie. 9 out of 10. Fantastic movie.
Has some okay shots. It's overused. The score was okay. I hated the editing on the sound. Maybe it's intentional, but the score would oftentimes drown out, the actual dialogue, which irritates.
Editing's fantastic in this too. Okay. Forgot to mention that.
Well,
editing's great.
Whoever did the sound editing, they left the music on way too high for my liking, but I guess it's a personal choice. I guess it's also a personal choice whether you like this film or not, and I don't, as we can all tell. 2.5 out of 10. I just loathe it. I loathe it. I loathe everything this guy has ever done. I don't want to watch anymore, although I know now I'm basically telling everybody to pick stuff that he's done, and I'll end up watching his entire film catalog at some point. I just...
He has 8 movies.
8 too many.
Fun quote, Nicole Kidman compared him to Stanley Kubrick on the short I watched behind the scenes.
And now I want to throw up.
She said, I'm pretty sure something like he's just as great as Stanley Kubrick.
People have a right to their opinion. People have a right to their opinion.
Hey, speaking of loathing, this actually isn't the biggest gap in ratings that we've ever had.
Yeah, Fear and Loathing
which
in Las
is Fear and
Vegas.
Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Wouldn't recommend it, but I'm obviously in the minority. That's been pretty well established. I don't know.
Sphinx as well gave this a 9 out of 10. And at one point, this was his favorite movie of all time.
Fair enough. I'll stick with Midnight Cowboy as my favorite of all time. At least that tells me a story. All right, well, that was great. Tom Brady might not be going back.
I deleted that. I don't get a pick for next week.
Tom Brady might be going back to New England. What's your pick for next week?
My pick for next week is
Sacred Deer 2.
Yorgos Lanthimos' next film. I'm kidding.
That's fine. I'll suffer through it. Enjoy Dick Figures the movie next week. Then, you know what? That's how I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hold everybody hostage.
If you're gonna continue to be butthurt,
I'm not butthurt.
I picked a movie because I think you'll like it. I didn't pick a movie because I like it.
I don't care. That's fine. I mean, I'm just saying there's a new rule. I have to watch what you guys pick, right? And I will watch it, but I retract my previous statement where I said I would refuse to watch it because that's not fair. The podcast doesn't work if people start refusing to watch stuff, so I'm not going to do that. But I'm just saying, next movie
I didn't finish Thanksgiving.
Next movie from Yogurt Mothballs or whatever his name is, right?
Yorgos Lanthimos.
Okay, so next movie from Yogurt that I see on DCD the week after, I'm picking something really stupid like Dick Figures the movie. So
you're saying that I'm picking this movie?
You pick whatever you want, pal.
No, I meant like in your scenario. So next.
I mean, do you want Dick Figures or not?
Maybe I do. Maybe I'll bait you into picking Dick Figures.
That's fine.
My pick, it's from 2018, maybe. Directed by Lee Whannell, not Yorgos Lanthimos. This movie blew me away when I watched it in theaters, because I went into the movie not knowing anything about it. And it's a science fiction movie, which I know you like, and it's a genre that typically I don't like, but you have, you have in the past talked about, and you've seemed to enjoy. It's an action movie set in a sci-fi world, directed by Lee Winnell, which his other works are not that great. He Insidious 3, I think, is his only movie before this, and then he directed The Invisible Man that just came out this weekend.
I didn't know that there was an Insidious 3. That's news to me.
It's one of the Insidious movies.
Wow.
Or it's one. I think Insidious. Yeah, there's like 5, but it is Upgrade from 2018.
Oh, I heard about this. That looked good.
It blew me away in theaters. Like, I didn't know anything about it. I went into it because I worked at Cinemark. Well, I said the company. I worked at a movie theater, and I was like, I'm just going to go watch this movie, and it's great. And there's a digital code for anybody who wants to use that. That digital code actually works, unlike the other one before.
Yep, that's for Movies Anywhere, one of my favorite apps.
So, yeah, that movie, I picked it, because I wanted to rewatch it. It's I guess a fun action movie that I actually like, despite the action movies that we discussed previously that I don't really like. And it'd be interesting. I've become more cynical on films recently, and over time, the more movies I watch, the more cynical I get about movies. So it'll be interesting to see if I actually still like the movie over time, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
And also, I think you genuinely like it because it's science fiction and action at the same time. And you like that sort of stuff. You can find it on Amazon, Google Play. Oh man, this pick might actually be bad. Well, I might change my pick, but because you can't rent it on any streaming services. It's on HBO, or you have to pay $15 to own it.
Well, you can get a free HBO trial for 7 days, and you can watch it on that.
Sure, we'll keep it.
Yeah.
I apologize. I should have looked that up beforehand.
Oh, come on. Get a burner email. Like, seriously, guys, I'm just telling you this right now. If it's on a streaming service for 7 days, get a burner email address, watch the movie, and literally cancel it right after you watch it. Just get a burner email. I have a bunch of them, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't pay for Netflix for like a year at one point.
Should probably look that up beforehand. I apologize, but that's the pick. Sure, we'll go with it anyways.
Well, look at that.
So that's DCD 70.
Well, that's DC 70. So thanks for listening. And as always, t-shirt link in the description. You buy one of those. It helps us out, helps us fund the show. And if you want to help us out another way, you go check out our Patreon, patreon.com/DCD podcast. You get all kinds of great perks. Especially my favorite is that you get to suggest a movie every 3 weeks. And
you can pick a Yorgos Lanthimos movie.
Yeah, you can. You can. And then in effect, you will be picking 2 movies at once, because that means that when my pick comes around the next time, you're going to be watching Dick Figures the movie. So
dude, you got to pick it. I might meme pick The Favorite next time just to watch Dick Figures. Well, I don't know what that is, but based on this conversation,
it's an amazing film, and the soundtrack is done by Ninja Sex Party. So, one of my favorite bands.
Oh, I'm baiting this. Guaranteed. Next pick is The Favorite.
So, yeah. So, if you want to get your 2-for-1 and watch Dick Figures the movie when I pick it after you pick Yogurt's next movie, there you go. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month. I want to thank our current Patreon backers. We have Dumbest Sphinx and Egg tier. Sorry I was so rough on your movie. You're a cool dude. I still like you a lot. And Bobby in the Andy tier, and Jared and Daniel in the Gold tier. Those guys are all cool guys in and of themselves. I want to give Jared a huge thank you as well for reaching out to me and telling me that the solo episode turned out pretty good. I was really nervous about uploading that or releasing that, so It was nice to have somebody say, hey, it was pretty good. So thanks for that, Jared. But thank you to all our Patreon backers. You guys are awesome. You're literally the reason we're able to do this. Yeah, so...
Show the Patreons.
Yeah, so thank you for that. And then if you can't support us monetarily, that's cool. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can leave us an iTunes review. Those are both free. And you can tell a friend about the show. That's free as well. And go to deadchannelduo.com. It'll give you a link to everywhere we're available. We're on like...
Buy our merch.
Yeah, buy our merch. But tell a friend about the show. Just tell them, go to deadchannelduo.com and check out these guys. So, yeah, that's going to do it. Andy, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Hey, if you could have a crush on a girl and you tell them about our podcast.
Yeah, I think it's a way to really
secure the bag.
Yeah, like, could you imagine if like there's a girl and she's like, I don't know, he's kind of cute, but I just don't know if I want to go out with him.
I listen to DCD every week, the most sophisticated podcast out there.
And she'll be like, oh man, I love it when Alex talks about Dick Figures, the movie.
I like it whenever they recommend a Yorgos Lanthimos movie and Alex wants to kill himself.
It's kind of dark, but I'm kind of dark too. I like dark stuff. All right.
DCD 70.
DCD 70. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Das Pitanya!